So good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening in what we think is a very important opportunity for residents to become informed about some of the candidates and their policy. We'll begin with the land acknowledgement. We recognize that we live, work, and play on traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples and is now home to many diverse First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples. We acknowledge that Toronto is covered by the Treaty 13, the Toronto Purchase, which represents a sovereign relationship between the Mississaugas of the Credit with the Crown. Toronto is in the dish with one spoon. The dish with one spoon is a treaty between the Anishinaabe, the Mississauga, and the Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. Subsequent Indigenous nations and peoples, Europeans, and all newcomers have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. Under this covenant, we have to share the responsibility of ensuring that the dish is never empty, which includes taking care of the land, the creatures we share within it. We all eat out of the dish, and all of us share the territory with only one spoon. We recognize the original caretakers of the land and the enduring presence of the treaties that guide the relationships between nations and with the land for past, present, and future. We are here to work together to build a healthy, caring, and vibrant community where all people can thrive in the present and for generations to come. We also recognize that the land acknowledgement alone is not enough. It's merely a starting point. In this spirit, we would like to share an Indigenous-led resource called the Native Land Digital. I'll share it in the chat as well so that you can have access to it easily. Their mission is to map Indigenous lands in a way that changes, challenges, and improves the way that people see history and the present day through mapping, education, and community building. And it is worldwide as well. With that, I'd like to thank the candidates who have joined us this evening. We have Anya Gorka from the Green Party of Ontario that has joined us. Alexa Gilmore from the Ontario New Democratic Party, and Nadia Guerrera, who may be joining us a little bit later, hasn't joined the call yet, but did confirm that they'd be here as well. Thank you all for participating in this important process. And I'll also add that all the candidates who were listed on the Elections Ontario website as of February the 10th were invited to participate in this evening's event. The purpose of the event is to inform our community about each party's platform, to support well-informed electorate, and to give each candidate an opportunity to introduce themselves to the Junction residents. The agenda is essentially going to start with a prepared question session where we have, in collaboration with community members, some prepared questions that we shared with the candidates ahead of time, so then they could give us policy answers in more detail. And here is, Nadia is about to join us as well. So yeah, let's just let in. Hi, Nadia. How are you?
Hi, I'm so sorry. We've been having some challenges.
It's okay. We've got everything handled. We'll guide you through it. And yeah, we'll guide you through it. We're just at the introduction stage right now, and then we'll guide you through it. No worries.
Thank you so much.
Okay. So we'll start off with the prepared questions and give each candidate an opportunity to answer, and each of them will be timed. And then we'll have some questions from the chat. That'll be another portion of the meeting as well, after the prepared questions are answered. So you'll have an opportunity then for follow-up questions or to ask some questions in the chat. Feel free to add questions in the chat as you go, because I'll be in the background monitoring. Mahima Madhava is going to be our monitor for the evening, and I'm going to hand it off to her. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Again, thank you for joining us this evening. we're just going to start off with first just couple of introductions. First to we're the Junction Residents Association, and we're a volunteer-led and run community organization that consists of Junction area residents. And the JRA depends on sponsorships from local businesses, donations from residents, and volunteerism to put on events such as this and other community events like our Summerfest and Halloween Howl and Join the Junction and our food drives. So what we believe in as an association, our vision is that we want the Junction to be a healthy, caring, and vibrant community where all people can thrive. Our mission is to promote a strong, vibrant, walkable, accessible, livable, and safe community by empowering residents through community engagement. And our goal is to provide an effective platform for community advocacy and engagement. If you want to read more about us, you can scan our QR code that's in the bottom of the screen, or you can visit us at our website, and that information will be on towards the end of the slide presentation. We're our current board it consists of 8 of us, and Helen Sue Fleming is here as well, and myself, Mahima, and we have some 5 other directors as well. So on to the Meet the Candidate thing that we're attending here. Just some housekeeping. Firstly, for all of you, the attendees, you will be muted for the presentations. Accommodations for speaking will be made for accessibility purposes only. Given the duration of the meeting, we may need to limit the number of questions and responses that happen during that Q&A open session. And attendees are invited to write questions in the chat. We'll be keeping track of those, and at the end, we'll try to get the candidates to answer any additional questions as they can. For the candidates, the order of responses from the candidates will rotate so that each candidate has the opportunity to answer first each of the questions. Candidates will be given a 15-second notice before their microphone is muted to help them stay within their allotted time. And as you know, this meeting is being recorded and it will be made available afterwards. And we just remind everybody just to please maintain a respectful discourse throughout the meeting. We don't want to remove anyone. And now we're going to start with the candidate introductions. So as Helen had mentioned earlier, we have Alexa Gilmore from the Ontario NDP, Anya Gorka from the Green Party of Ontario, and Nadia Guerrera from the Ontario Liberal Party here with us. Not present, but our Parkdale High Park candidates for this year are Justine Teplicki, who sends her regrets. She had a conflict with another event. Remy Riar with the Communist Party, and Jeffrey Corfield. Remy Riar with the Communist Party, and Jeffrey Corfield with the New Blue Party. The last 2 candidates weren't on the Elections Ontario site till after the 10th, so we did not have any way of getting in touch with them. So first, we did draw for spots. So Anya Gorka will be starting off with an introduction to all of you. She'll have a minute to introduce herself and just to see what she just wants to introduce herself. So Anya, if you could start, then we'll have Alexa and Nadia.
Well, greetings, everybody, and thank you so much for the JRA putting on this debate. It's very important for democracy. My name is Anna Gorka, often called Anya, like Bob to Robert, for those who know me and anybody. I began working with politics after a career in architecture that shifted to responses to ecology in the form of ecosystem restoration and farming, actually. So those are three sectors in my portfolio. And when I started to connect the dots about how to affect change, it became clear to me that activism could only go so far without legislative or parliamentary change. So I joined the Greens because of the 6 values and the fact that we're not so scripted. So I'm very excited to present all the work that I've been doing. Thank you.
Alexa? Sorry, we're just going to unmute you.
Perfect. Thank you, everybody. It's great to be here, and thank you for taking some time on this cold night. I have deep connections to the Junction neighborhood going back 5 generations, and my own life has been spent serving the Parkdale High Park community, first as the minister of Windermere United Church in Swansea, and then as a community activist, an advocate around issues of poverty, housing, newcomer refugee, 2S LGBTQ rights. But I grew up in a rented house on Windermere Avenue. I learned the value of hard work and resilience watching my parents make ends meet. And now I'm the mother of 5, and I understand more than ever the struggles of families, especially when it comes to affordable housing, accessible healthcare, strong community support. My own family and I have built, my spouse and I, we've built our family through adoption. And we know the struggles of navigating the systems. The people that I love are as diverse as the riding. I'm fiercely dedicated to making Parkdale High Park stronger and building on the progressive legacy of Sherry DeNovo, of Butila Carpace, and the NDP here in Parkdale High Park.
And Nadia? Sorry, if we can just unmute Nadia.
Oh, I think I'm unmuted now. So good evening, everyone. Thanks to the Junction Residents Association for putting this on, and to my fellow candidates for putting your names on the ballot and being here this evening as well. It's really great to see you all. I'm Nadia. I'm our Ontario Liberal candidate. I bring a background of service with 23 years in education and most recently in healthcare. And I'm no stranger to Parkdale High Park. I've worked in 3 schools in this community. My home is literally, I can see it from my campaign office in Parkdale. And I ran here for office in 2018 when Doug Ford was first running to be our premier. Since then, his government has neglected our systems, leaving them strained with limited resources and tired people. He's wasted our money on lawsuits that he's lost and tried to fast track booze in corner stores. He's sold out important assets like Ontario Place and farmlands. Wow, that was really quick. So I'm running because I believe that we deserve a better Ontario, and I'm running because I know that this is possible in 2 short weeks. So I'm here before you asking you to vote for me on February 27th.
Okay, thank you very much, everyone. So we're going to just move into the questions portion now. These are the prepared questions. These were developed with input from a lot of the attendees here sent in questions when they registered, as well as some of the consultations that we've had with some of our partners and with our JRA board and community members. So again, the purpose of this meeting tonight is to inform our community about the candidates' platforms and their goals, and to support really a well-informed electorate. So this is not a debate, the format for this. And we just want to get a sense on how each of you, the candidates, plan to represent the interests of Parkdale High Park and of us, the residents, and also Toronto residents as a whole at the provincial level. So our first question, just a second. So our first question is about community, and you'll each have 1 minute max to answer. The question is, what is the Junction's greatest strength? And what is our most serious or emerging challenge? So we'll start with Anna first, and then Alexa and Nadia. So Anna.
Oh, will I always be first? Just wondering. With the questions?
No, just for this
Oh,
one, and
okay.
then
Yeah, good to know. Shall I start?
go ahead.
The unique thing about the junction as I walk around and talk to over 1,000, 2,000 people, because I already canvassed here in the Greenbelt crisis, which our constitutional lawyer actually appeared in Queen's Park with a letter to summon the RCMP for that Duffins Rouge Agricultural Preserve. Everybody here still has access to repair shops, and the fabric of the commercial streetscape is old time, and it's possible to still live, work, and shop where you are without commuting. That is something precious to preserve that hasn't been chewed out by big boxes yet. And so the challenge will be to make sure that development stays humane, that you don't build buildings right against the streetscape that you cannot throw a sandwich from. And through community consultation that's well done by people who know how to bring stakeholders together, such as architects, then we can preserve such a precious gem in the city of Toronto and an exemplary fragment of a municipality that has impact over all of Ontario, because all of the municipalities are suffering and are following suit, even with all of our decisions here and the
Sorry, that's time.
All right, next, Alexia, please.
Hi there. Okay. Well, as the great granddaughter of Archibald Campbell, who lived on Annette Street and owned the Campbell Flour Mill located right beside the Junction railway tracks, I can say with 100% certainty that our Junction neighborhood strength for over the past century has been its community, its small, vibrant businesses, its compassionate neighborhood of people who care for one another. During the pandemic, when I was the minister at Windermere United, I led the Neighbors Helping Neighbors program, saw firsthand Junction residents support one another through mutual aid, through finding N95 masks for seniors, doing grocery deliveries for immunocompromised folks, and feeding people who simply couldn't meet ends together. Now I'm seeing that life is harder than ever
15.
for more people. And the greatest threat to our community's affordability, the rising cost for businesses, for residents, means that we're losing our small businesses, and our young people feel unable to dream of building their own families. So someone who's put their faith into action, I'm dedicated to run for the NDP because its platform is the only one robust enough to make life affordable and keep our neighborhood thriving.
Okay, thank you. Question number 2 is on housing, and each candidate will have 2 minutes to respond to the kind of 3 parts to this question. So with the alarming increase in homelessness and lack of affordable housing, what is your party's position on affordable housing, and what solutions do you see to mitigate the absence of supply? What is your party's plan to end homelessness? And what is your party's plan to make the cost of housing more affordable for renters? And we will start with Alexa.
Forgive me, I just wanted to check a process, if we can. Was Nadia given a chance to answer that first question?
No, she was not. My apologies. Sorry. My apologies, Nadia, please.
Oh, that's okay. Thanks for that, Alexa. I didn't want to interrupt you while you were reading the question, so I was going to wait, but thank you for that.
Of course.
So thanks for the question. It's easy to answer that question about the Junction. It's a community I've loved. I've lived in the Lower Junction, watched many local businesses like the Good Neighbor pop up, and having participated in many festivals over the years, I'd say that the Junction's greatest strength, like you, Alexa, is that its community is incredible. It consists of dynamic people that are so engaged, local businesses that make it exciting but feel homey, and the amazing activities like the Junction Arts Fest make it vibrant and a great place to live and visit. So the heritage of the community, having a little Malta the only one in the world with the great style and great shops and local restaurants and pubs, I think gives it its unique appeal. Maybe it could use a community center. That's something I would want to advocate for sure. But I'd say definitely that the greatest challenges are around housing and affordability. Rents have skyrocketed 83% under Doug Ford and the cost of housing by 50%. So what I want to do is bring in a plan that will bring in phased-in rent controls, waive land transfer taxes for first-time buyers and seniors looking to downsize, and cut the small business tax in half.
That's time.
Awesome. Thank you.
My apologies again, Nadia. Sorry about so we're on to question 2 again. This is on housing, so I'll just read it out again. So with the alarming increase in homelessness and lack of affordable housing, what is your party's position on affordable housing, and what solutions do you see to mitigate the absence of supply? What is your party's plan to end homelessness? And what is your party's plan to make the cost of housing more affordable for renters? And we'll start with Alexa.
Thank you so much. Housing is absolutely a human right, and we can't leave it to the market alone. Just last week, I knocked on an apartment in our neighborhood, and it was full of moving boxes. And she said to me, they raised the rent on this bachelor apartment to $2,000 per month. And I grew up here. I never thought I would have to be pushed out of my community. In that same week, I was with Marit Stiles, highlighting these great solutions that we have right here in the riding, like Park on Queen Street West. And the NDP will partner with municipalities and organizations to get affordable, supportive housing built. And we know what works, and the NDP is ready to scale it up to end chronic homelessness. We're going to build or acquire 300,000 new affordable homes within 10 years while providing good unionized jobs. We're also going to protect renters from unethical landlords through real rent control and wrap people around in support. That includes grocery rebates, a doubling of both OW and ODSP rates, as well as the raising of the minimum wages to keep up with the cost of living, so that people's income isn't going just to keep a roof over their heads.
Thank you, Alexa. Now we have Nadia.
Thank you so much. So ultimately, life has gotten a lot less affordable in Doug Ford's Ontario. He's arbitrarily stopped rent controls on new builds since November of 2018. Rents doubled under his watch, and there are about 200,000 homeless people that we currently know of in our province. An Ontario Liberal government's committed to implementing solutions across the housing continuum to address this reality. That means from transitional housing and supportive housing with wraparound supports for people struggling with financial health, physical health, financial struggles, health, mental health, addictions, and all of those sorts of challenges, to affordable rentals and affordable home ownership. So one of the things we're going to be doing is doubling the benefit for ODSP, which will instantly bring people from $1,300 a month to about $2,700 and change. That's a big difference. Also, sort of bringing in the rental emergency support for tenants program that will help those most vulnerable of being evicted. Universal mental health care being brought into our OHIP system will also be a game changer, because we know that we have to start looking at the social determinants of health. And that means also making primary care accessible by giving people a doctor within 4 years. Looking at a fair phased-in rent control is another big thing, and clearing the backlog of the 53,000 cases at the landlord-tenant board right now is another big move, so that we can make those disputes resolved or resolvable within a 2-month period. Another thing that's super important to addressing this entire problem is to build more co-ops and affordable rental apartments by cutting down the unfair taxes that drive up the cost of building these types of units. Okay, so eliminating the land transfer tax for new buyers and seniors is another big one, and making life more affordable with an 8% reduction in the HST and hydro. Look, if we want these alternatives, the only option here is to look at what the polls are telling us, and that's that an Ontario Liberal government is what's possible. And so I would ask you to vote for these things. Thank you.
Right, thank you. And next, Anna, same question on housing.
Well, like I said, I'm unscripted, and the Greens were the first to bring out a fully costed platform yesterday. And it started for me with experiencing housing instability on my own back. I think hasn't that I know of been an MPP that is a renter, but I am. And I was with a corporate property manager. I had an LTB case. I noticed patterns in adjudication, and I effected change at the landlord tenant board after that. And I'm really happy I have the power and the thought process to do so. And I feel compelled to do this for other people. I was denied legal aid because it wasn't really a strong enough office to handle people who had what they determined to be enough capacity to handle themselves like I was. But I was a deer in the headlights right there in that tribunal. And it was very anguishing. 2 years I'll never get back. But the Greens have several rules like bolstering legal aid and of course, when I fall into my anecdote, I forget, but you can look up the platform. We have within urban boundaries a set number of homes to build so that it's not sprawl. This changes affordability, of course, end to speculation. It shouldn't be that a property manager is beholden to stakeholders. And yeah, vacancy tax at a provincial level. It's working municipally at a provincial level. As soon as there are more than 2 homes or 3 homes in a family, that gets taxed. There are prohibitive costs to building that need to be adjusted, and Greens have always had that masterclass plan that has been co-opted by other parties, and we're always pleased to do so to provide those solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Question number 3. It's the topic is healthcare, and it's a 2-part question. So first, with access to healthcare, which is a pressing issue both locally and province-wide, what is your party's plan to attract and retain healthcare professionals? And this includes doctors to family practices, nurses, as well as allied health or other healthcare professionals, such as occupational therapists, psychologists, PSWs. And the second part, according to a recent Toronto Star article, 3 long-term care homes in Toronto have shut down in the past year, for a total of 6 closures in this city in the past 3 years. 2 of these were in the Parkdale High Park riding. So, and with an aging population and fewer public services aimed at supporting seniors being offered, what is your party's plan to reduce wait times for a bed in long-term care so that seniors can get the critical care that they need? What is your party's plan to increase home care support services? And how would the above services be funded? And we'll start with Nadia.
Sorry, just a point of order before we start. Is it 2 minutes to answer both of the questions or each question? Because that's a lot in 1 minute. I mean, I could try
It is a lot, but it is 2 minutes and that your answer should encompass all of that. I know it's a lot, but
okay, well, I will endeavor to try. Listen, this is something I'm extremely passionate about. I currently sit on one of Ontario's 58 health teams, and I sit on the board of a community health center. We know that under Doug Ford's government, we've got 2.5 million people across this province that don't have a family doctor. We know that about 20,000 of those right now are right here in Parkdale High Park. So Ontario Liberal plan is very clear. We're going to bring family medicine and primary care. That means everybody gets a family doctor within 4 years. How we do that is by opening 2 new medical schools, making sure that those are focused on family medicine. 2/3 of those will be for family medicine specifically, expanding residencies in family medicine, and streamlining the process for internationally trained physicians to actually be able to practice here in Ontario. So those are some of the things we're doing. Team-based approaches are really important, right? If people have a family health team, if their doctor's not there, there are other doctors there. There are nurse practitioners, nurses, PSWs, social workers, dietitians. And so people can get the wraparound supports they need, and we can have healthy communities. And imagine what an Ontario would look like with that on every corner instead of booths, right? These are the things we can build. Around seniors, one thing I'm extremely proud about when I was our candidate in 2018 was that I worked with the then Premier Kathleen Wynne, Minister Laura Albanese, and the CEO of the Runnymede Health Centre to make sure it was in our budget to get 200 new long-term care beds at the Runnymede Health Centre. And the first ones ever, by the way, in Ontario that has a designation for Maltese seniors. So I'm incredibly proud of that. Yes, we need to invest in that infrastructure, and we will, because we have, and that's who we are as Liberals. But Mr. Ford only invests in the infrastructure and the beds. He only looks at the buildings and the beds, and he actually uses those stats as housing starts. Those don't mean anything if you don't pay nurses and PSWs a living wage, because beds don't take care of people alone. And you need the people that do the work to be able to stay in the professions and so on. So beyond just building publicly funded long-term care and increasing the capacity for home care, we will be paying people who do the work of caring for our seniors a living wage. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadia. Next, Anna, same question.
Greens are placing an emphasis to prioritize aging in place. 48,000 is the number for the number of extra LTC beds. When you look at what is compounding the problem at hospitals, it is clear that support services are failing and people end up at the hospital because of housing loss and because of the overdose epidemic that we're having and other considerations like mental health. And this is a main line for Greens. We've always called for an allocation of more funding for mental health, and this is prophylactic care. It is in the platform to keep those safe injection sites. Opioids are something that you can manage, and a survivor is a very precious community member to have. It is, we are the only party that knows that this is the only safe way to do things. In fact, it's becoming more dangerous without those places. Finally, well, I forgot my last point to say, so I was just at St. Joseph's Hospital and I noticed that the residence for the nuns was going to get torn down. And this is in our writing. It shouldn't be. It's perfect housing for people and it's right in a wraparound care zone. I thought as an architect I could audit that situation. I know that there is a shortage of real estate right in that hospital compound. But something can be done because the rate of housing loss far outnumbers new builds. And so housing is a part of healthcare, if you see what I am illustrating here. I've noticed many sites. I'm like a taxi driver and I have an eye for sites. We need to preserve good housing. I myself would love to live in that beautiful building. It's perfectly plumb. And the embodied energy in demolishing an excellent 12-story structure that's got strong bones is a developer mathematic that we need to move away from.
Thank you, Anna. Alexa, you're next.
Thank you. As a parent of special needs kids, as the daughter of aging parents, I know how painful it is to wait for a year for desperately needed treatment. Like many of you, I have held the hand of a loved one in the hospital hallway as they rested and waited for care and received it in the hallway. We know that there's 2.5 million households waiting for family doctors. And the answer is very simple. It's to keep healthcare public. Under both the Liberals and the Conservatives, we have not funded the care that we have needed for decades now. And Ford's answer is to privatize. And this is a plan that was started by the Liberals under Kathleen Wynne when they expanded the private clinics. Privatization is simply short-sighted, it's unjust, and it's even deadly. I mean, healthcare must never, ever be a privilege for those who can afford it. It's a human right, and that's something that we must all have equal access to, regardless of our postal code, our bank account, our gender, our race, our sexual orientation. And we know from watching with horror that the death rates during COVID in the private long-term care facilities were higher than the public care facilities. So privatization is not the answer. The answer is properly funding healthcare. And our solution includes $4.5 billion into the healthcare in Ontario. It includes fair wages and growing the workforce by increasing residency seats, by increasing the licensing opportunities for the tens of thousands internationally educated doctors and healthcare workers that are here right now, ready to serve us. Our own platform also includes building the multidisciplinary teams, the community health center hubs, like the one that we could build in the old police station right in the Junction. The NDP is going to stand up for public healthcare, and we're going to reverse the previous two governments selling off of our healthcare.
Thank you, Alexa. Next, question number 4. This is regarding small business. So as identified by the Junction BIA, many local or small businesses are grappling with rising rents, food, utilities, and wage costs, which continue to strain their operations. What is your party's plan to support small businesses and local economies? And how would you, as a member of the provincial legislature, work with the federal government and other parties as in a Team Canada approach? Or how would you improve or resolve any interprovincial cooperation and trade? We'll start with Anna.
This is a great question. It's again multifaceted. I do have a consultant, Aaron Binder. He really keeps the tabs on all of the commercial rent stats. And I hadn't meant to call him before today, but I'll talk to you about the Competitions Act at the federal level. It's really weak right now. And it is a fact that we're seeing the incursion. And while I do love my honey cruller, when you get Tim Hortons, you get reduced wages and a tendency for people to go for the cheaper item, and then business gets chewed out. In turn, we have emissions problems, and then those companies raise prices on us. So one thing I'm real proud of is as far as holding big companies accountable and so that their profits aren't run away and small businesses thrive too. If you can connect those dots with me, is rallying at the Nestle chocolate factory. Those are chocolates we eat because they are so cheap. And what happened when an American CEO took the reins just recently in 2024, Unifor went on strike, and I helped reach those demands. I know it because I spent dozens of hours where NDP showed up for some photos but disappeared right away, getting to know everybody and figuring out the math. So CPP, ability to change wage scale, those should not be cost-cutting measures, and the price of the chocolate bars should be a normal price, right? And competitive correctly with small business. And it takes the Competition Act federally to do so. And I'll leave it at that for now. There's more to the puzzle.
Thank you, Anna. Alexa?
Look, I've been going into businesses throughout the riding, including the Junction, and the small businesses tell me that to a person almost that they're struggling and really feeling the pinch. And the Trump tariffs threat is making everything for them more uncertain. And we really do need to stand strong. And I know who I would want to trust. It's someone who has gone toe to toe against the big companies and as a negotiator, someone who has stood up for the workers, who knows how to walk into a room and come out with the best deal. And you know what? Their initials are not DF. The person I'm talking about is Mart Stiles, who has a long history of labor negotiator and knows how to get good deals for those of us in Ontario. I mean, the other guy, Doug Ford, he's talking a very big game, but it's not the person I would put my trust in. He's been pushing a deal with Elon Musk and Starlink, placing our North's future in their hands. He's given the green belt, tried to give it to his developer buddies, which Bonnie Crombie and the Liberals have both also haven't ruled out. He's selling off Ontario Place to an Austrian spa and squeezing out local Service Ontario locations in favors of giving that to Staples and Walmart, which are big American companies. He's made us more vulnerable, and small businesses included, to Trump and to Musk. So we know that we need sector-specific support in this time of the tariffs and the threats, and we are going to provide that. We need to build our economy while recognizing the small business owners are also our neighbors and they're members of our community. And we can count on the NDP to be on your side in this. We are ready with a plan that protects the sectors that are hardest hit, that helps drop the barriers to interprovincial trade, and defends the jobs and the people of Ontario.
We have an NDP mayor who relinquished Ontario
you.
Place.
Sorry, Anna. Sorry. Thank you, Alexa. Next, we have Nadia.
Hi, thanks for the question. I'll start with the small business piece and I'll move into the tariff. So we can all feel that life in Doug Ford's Ontario is really more expensive for everyone, whether they're residents or small businesses or both. Ontario Liberals will help residents, again, by reducing the cost of living with a fair phased-in rent control, eliminating the 8% HST on heating and hydro and home heating, and doubling the ODSP. And why that's important is because more money in people's pockets means they have more spending power. And we know that in the Junction, people like to shop locally. So we want to help them to be able to do that. More specifically about small businesses, as I said before, Ontario Liberals are going to cut the small business tax in half, and we're going to also make it easier for more of these small businesses in our community to qualify for those small business tax cuts. That's really important for being able to keep their doors open, because everybody that I've been talking to across the riding who's a small business owner says that they're having difficulty. And meanwhile, Doug Ford's selling off Ontario Place to foreign corporate spa owners. In relation to the Team Canada approach, I believe it's imperative that all parties, whether it's in the legislature or in Parliament, work together, and that levels of government work together to be able to have that Team Canada approach. We need to have a united voice in order to take care of our workers, our jobs, and our industries. Bonnie Crombie has shown this. She was the mayor of the third largest city in Toronto, and she's been has a record of building those relationships across the border already. So I know she'll be able to do that. She's committed to working across the aisle, as am I, because jobs, people, and our industries come first in Ontario and in Canada. And so when it comes to interprovincial trade, I think it's our role in Ontario to be the first of the 10 provinces to lead that discussion and be open to the dialogue. So thank you for the question.
Thank you, Nadia. Question number 5. The question number 5 is around development. Again, it's maximum 2 minutes to answer. What is your party's position on respecting municipal council policies and its independence in serving their communities? And regarding the use of ministerial zoning orders, would your party discontinue or resume the approach in responding to key development sites? And we'll start with Alexa.
Thanks. I'm going to keep this one short because it's very disappointing to see the ways in which Doug Ford has been interfering. Unlike Doug Ford, we are not trying to be the mayor of Toronto. We will work collaboratively with the municipalities. We are going to respect the municipalities, and we're going to respect their decisions. And that's full stop.
Thank you, Alexa. Next is Nadia.
Thanks again for the question. So let me just begin by saying how much I abhor the way that Doug Ford has used municipal zoning orders to muzzle and to ignore the voices of local communities and local decision makers. MZOs were intended to serve the public good by facilitating the construction of essential community infrastructures like schools, community centers, and hospitals, not to line the pockets of developers building multi-million-dollar McMansions. That is not what they were created for. Instead, Doug Ford has handed these out to his friends, even when it violates the wishes of people in local communities and local city councils, and even when it threatens our green space and our protected farmlands, as we've seen with the Greenbelt. So the problem with MZOs is how these have been applied under this government. Used properly, they can build something like a community center right here in the Junction, or build affordable housing more quickly across Ontario. The trick here is to have a government that respects communities and city councils while maintaining municipal zoning orders as a tool to be used only if and only when there's a consensus that exists amongst all of those local partners. This is why it's imperative that we change Ontario's government on February 27th to an Ontario Liberal government, which the polls are telling us is possible. So we need you for that, because we need this change. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadia. And now Anna. Anna?
Yes, there's a lot to say here. It's paramount. I was there when Bill 39 passed. I was in the gallery and I cried because removing local representation and taking tools away from the municipality was just horrible. And the Duffin's Rouge Agricultural Preserve was folded into that bill as well. So when I witnessed the PCs withhold an MZO in order to prevent modular housing from going up in Willowdale, I went right for that issue because I knew I could talk to Councillor Lily Chang. And here is my track record in political action. I was brought on to chair Willowdale Climate Roundtable meetings initially. And with that access to locals, I really recommended visiting a modular home and to bring that equity across Toronto where all wards, municipal wards should have a diversity of housing options. And sure enough, everybody noticed that Montgomery Sizem, a really excellent architecture firm, did a great job in making a wonderful place. Native Man's residence, everyone was afraid of a rooming house going up in Parkdale, and it is now considered the nicest house on the street. So there's a lot of PR to be done with people. You just need designers, people with intel who know how to engage the public and make everybody comfortable. So MZOs could be good. I also want to give a shout out to charter cities, which Greens have been on that file for a long time, and it's in council right now. Josh Matlow presented it. We need to just get some power back for our councillors.
Thank you, Anna. Now, question 6. Education. So there's considerable pressure on our school system due to both the provincially mandated intensification of the city and the 16.8 million plus backlog of repairs needed to maintain our school buildings. Adequate funding for public education and the maintenance of buildings is becoming a serious issue for residents, as is ensuring equity in education as mandated by the AODA Act. Safe, well-maintained, healthy, and provides an environment conducive to learning and working. And further, how would you advocate for and ensure repairs for our local schools? And we'll start with Nadia.
Thanks so much. So as a teacher who's served in numerous schools in Parkdale, High Park, and across Toronto, I have lived this myself, right? Poor ventilation that sends staff and students home with headaches, crumbling buildings that were built with materials that are now banned due to the health risks associated with them, like asbestos, like lead paint, and leaking roofs that cause flooding in our schools. Under this government, there has been less investment in education, schools, teachers, and education workers, not more. And there has been less spent on capital repairs that we desperately need in order to make schools safe. So last year at Humberside, you might recall, we literally saw it raining inside the building, forcing students and staff to evacuate for their safety. Like, this just cannot stand. As we always have, Ontario Liberals will prioritize investing in education and the safety of our students and staff. We commit to smaller class sizes with more teachers and education workers to help meet student needs, more supports for special education, and to address the school repair backlog. There can be no equity in education or educational outcomes across Ontario if there's not equitable access to safe schools, period. That, thanks to the advocacy of our local champions at Fix Our Schools, Ontario had a facility conditions index. Doug Ford got rid of that. So we no longer know, in order of urgency, where school repairs are most needed in Ontario. As your MPP, I will advocate province-wide for this index to be restored so we can know basically where and when to fix our schools. And you have my commitment on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And next we have Alexa.
Thank you for the question. I have 5 children, and I know just how important it is to invest in them. They're all of our collective future. And as Nadia pointed out, my own high school last year, Humberside, was flooding during the rainstorms. The photos were on social media, and it was an urgent and health and safety issue. And we have been underfunding our school for decades in the last couple of governments. We are committing as the NDP to put $830 million to clear up that repair backlog, because our children, our students, they're worth it. And our educators are also worth it. We're entrusting our children's time and our future to them, and they deserve our support. Last year, 2 of my children's teachers went on stress leave. It's not okay. So we are committing to hiring more staff, to providing the wraparound support, both for teachers and educators in the building, and more, because more and more educators are leaving the profession, as I'm sure Nadia can attest to. Our children deserve the best, and that means paying them what they are worth. And when we saw the Liberals in power last, they brought forward the Bill 115, which would have imposed collective agreements on the teachers and the education workers, would have frozen their pay, but ultimately it was ruled unconstitutional. And no one can forget that Doug Ford's Bill 124, which capped salary increases for teachers. The NDP worked with labor movement and community members across the province, mobilizing in overwhelming numbers, and that forced them to back down. We will fight for our children's future. We're also looking at feeding children in the schools, because healthy brains require healthy nutrition. We have to invest. We have to invest in our buildings. We have to invest in our teachers. We have to invest in our kids.
Thank you, Alexa. Anna?
One thing I did for education was help elect Ashlyn Clancy, MPP from Kitchener Centre, who had a resounding win, but 5,000 votes, and she is experienced in the school system and currently fighting to protect students. Greens would immediately raise the funding per student to 1,500 extra, which they have lost. The ratios are obviously very difficult to work with. I have 3 children in the system, and I have approached a Swansea Public School and a farm that I sometimes work on in the summer. It's a free vacation. You farm sit, and I know how to drive tractors and ATVs, so I go there, and I think we really need a school lunch program. And you'll start with one school, one farm. I'm going to go from there. I'm going to do it. I'm a doer. We were talking about repairs. One way I'm going to advocate is say, how is it that we close the Ontario Science Centre from a roofing product that exists on TDSB schools? Canadian Architect has the structural report on that, and I can quickly connect the dots for people and talk about how dangerous this is for students, while it's also dangerous that we're shutting down our science center, for which there is private sector funding to keep open. Greens won't waste time doing things like voting for cars like NDP do, removing license plate renewal fees and draining our coffers of 900 million that we can use for schools or healthcare. We just look at the precise thing that needs to happen and do it. You need passion to do that. You can't just be scripted and talk. I'm tired of the bickering in Queen's Park. I'm sorry I have to go there during a supermajority, but with 87 seats, we're not going to, any one of us, resist a single bill. We just have to tuck into the riding and make these measured forms of direct action.
Thank you, Anna. Question 7, the environment. So given the growing urgency of the climate crisis, what are your party's plans to support the City of Toronto as they implement their Transform TO net zero strategy with the goal to reduce community-wide greenhouse gas emissions in Toronto and reach net zero by 2040? To mitigate the impacts of the climate crisis at the community level, how will you support communities to become more resilient in the face of these impacts? And what are your party's plans to protect the valuable resources of the Green Belt? And we'll start with Alexa.
Thank you. This is a great question. I've sat on boards of environmental organizations before, and I just signed the pledge given to all candidates by SCAN, the Seniors for Climate Action Now. That was a pledge that was created in part with MPP Tabins of the NDP, and it commits us and me to work with the city and to work with other municipalities on a comprehensive climate change adaptation and resilience strategy for all of Ontario. And that strategy has to have and will have the adequate funding behind it in order to increase the resilience of homes and of buildings. That includes plans for retrofitting residences with heat pumps, electrifying municipal transit. And provincially, we have to protect ourselves against the more intense wildfires that have devastated places like Linton, BC, and just recently Los Angeles. Climate change is real, and we have no time to lose on this. In addition, we have to prioritize the protection of prime agricultural lands. We get our food from there, and the growing tariff threat teaches us that we cannot outsource our food to anyone else. The Holland Marsh, the Greenbelt, these are our future. And now we're seeing that the RCMP investigation is well underway, and we'll learn more about Doug Ford's role in the Greenbelt scandal soon that saw his friends potentially profiting off of our children's future. But we already know that after promising to keep the Greenbelt protected, he then flipped to selling it and flopped back to keeping it when there was public pressure against it. Bonnie Crombie and the Liberals have said that they would be open to selling it in particular situations. And this is worrisome to me, as our future depends on bold leadership that won't bend to corporations, to corruption, to that will protect all of our green spaces for our future.
Thank you, Alexa. Next is Nadia.
Thank you. So, you know, I taught at 3 schools in the riding, but you don't know that what I taught was geography and environmental studies for the 20 years of my career that I was in the classroom. I also, at Bishop Morocco, another local school, created an urban gardening program out of the greenhouse that saw youth working with seniors to grow tomato plants that were then used in community gardens in Parkdale. So I care deeply about this. Ontario Liberals do too. Right? We were the government that closed down coal plants and coal power in Ontario. We created and expanded the green belts to protect our watersheds and our farmland. And we invested in green energy projects like biofuel, wind power. And we are the reason that over 300 schools in the Toronto District School Board alone have solar panels on their roofs, right? Which actually lowers the cost of roof maintenance and provides power to thousands of homes while reducing our carbon footprint. These are innovative solutions, and Liberals brought these into play in Ontario. We will do that again. Doug Ford, on the other hand, has shown us that he does not care about sustainability. We've seen this with his $8.3 billion sell-off of the Greenbelt to his developer buddies. And if it wasn't enough, he got rid of the cap and trade system that Ontario Liberals introduced back in 2016. That initiative brought in millions to Ontario that stayed in Ontario and were used for rebates for electric vehicles and windows and all kinds of things to make homes energy efficient in Ontario, while reducing emissions and attracting green and sustainable businesses to our province. Ford eliminated it and gave us a federally imposed carbon tax. And Ontario Liberals are committed to making sustainability a priority, as we always have, in the ways that make sense in 2025. And of course, that means taking care of our green belt. Community resiliency is also important. That's why we need healthy people and all the other health things that I've talked about and cost of living pieces that I've already spoken about. As your MPP, I'll also advocate for flood mitigation because we have the Humber in our riding and we know that that's a major place of swelling. And so you will have me advocating for you on that as well. Thank you so much for the question.
Thank you, Nadia. And Anna?
Well, I can let you know what flood mitigation actually means. I took part in the installation of a flood mitigation thesis after Hurricane Irene in Pennsylvania. As a renter, I was able to sublet because of good rules, which now don't exist, and go down there and make sure that a water system can absorb water. So in the municipality, we have a tradition of infrastructure that is much too much based on concrete and channelizing water. We need to depave the whole riparian zone. And this is intel and shop talk that has to happen right in Queen's Park. You know, we have a lot of trustees, we have a lot of lawyers, but we need people who can talk shop. So on a grassroots level, it's very important to build literacy. So I support all of our fantastic local groups like Green 13, Parkdale High Park for Climate Action. These are groups that bring intel right into the mechanical rooms of homes and can help mitigate emissions and reach transform TO. Now, I even thought that our riding is so good with those things that I'm franchising it because we are an ecology across the city, and this is a provincial matter, right? So in North York, I started the climate Willowdale Climate Roundtable, and the same conversations are happening. Why reinvent the wheel, right? So thank you, Parkdale High Park. You've been amazing. Right here in the Junction, I met a lot of people that have connections on farms and are bringing farm food to food banks. The Ontario Federation of Agriculture just acclaimed Mike Schreiner, our wonderful farm sector oriented party leader who puts caring for people above everything. The food belt is a part of the green belt. Let's talk about the food belt and fill our food terminals with local food. It is a foundation to economic sovereignty and lowering food prices. And in turn, Transform TO will have less emissions by having that 100-mile diet or local food. There's so much more.
Thank you, Anna. Now we're on to question number 8. Question number 8 is on equity. Given the challenges made against equity policies, for example, discrimination targeting trans, non-binary, and gender diverse youth by provincial governments, by Alberta and Saskatchewan, where they enforced via the use of the notwithstanding clause, as well, the York Catholic District School Board voting against flying the pride flag at its education center. How would you ensure the continued protection of human rights within our community? And we'll start with Nadia.
Thank you. Can I just start by saying I can't believe that in 2025 we're still dealing with this. You know, human rights are human rights, and that means for everyone. Again, as a teacher, as a sister, as a friend, as a neighbor, I've seen the challenges faced by young people and their families in our school systems when they don't feel seen, when they don't feel heard, and when they don't feel accepted. I've also seen the positive impact that flying the flag for Pride Month has had on staff, on students, and families. I was an advocate at the Toronto Catholic District School Board for flying the flag and was proud to see it fly as the first and largest Catholic school board in this country. As a queer woman, I live this and I know how much it matters because I've felt it myself. So the work of equity and inclusion is a significant part of my daily and professional life. I literally sit on the inaugural Equity and Diversity and Inclusion Committee for one of Ontario's 24 public colleges, where we work to implement equity into policies and practices across our post-secondary institution. I also sit on the board of the Queer Toronto Literary Magazine, which is the only magazine left in Ontario that I know of, which provides an artistic outlet for 2S LGBTQ plus people across the city. So I stand behind and I vow to uphold the Ontario Human Rights Code as your MPP. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadia. Anna?
There are some really tough tides across the world and in our continent occurring right now that make it extra important to stand unequivocally with every identity, and Greens are strong in that regard. I'm impressed with our local trustee, Debbie King, here in the riding, because I was very concerned after Grassy Narrows River Run when there was a manipulation of the dialogue that caused a public school inquiry. Rather than escalating the differences between people, like some trustees were going to make this inquiry much larger about whether or not school children are allowed to talk about civics and how we conflate various matters. Our trustee kind of de-escalated it and talked about, well, public demonstration might be not quite safe for children. You know, I think we're in good hands on that front. In my own walk of life, I have met with, well, I'm needing to say this. I wouldn't join a party that is so scripted that they would ostracize a member of their caucus. Okay, that is just a form of alienation that is making my voice tremble a little bit. I have gone to see Bassem Youssef at the Elgin Theater. I have 2 Palestinian friends in the community, and what I want to say that every group, especially those hurting right now, have a right to grieve out loud. So I criticize the expulsion of Sarah Jama, and that is the front to me of a very public problem in our province. I think I'll leave it at that. I hope I've answered the question with my moment. May I just look? Because of course, some stories are triggering to me.
I'm afraid that's time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Alexa?
Thank you. This is a question that clearly touches all 3 of us very deeply, and like all of our audience. Me, because I have queer racialized family members, because I've spent my life working in the interfaith world with both Muslim and Jewish colleagues and dear friends. We are all scared of what we're seeing in the US and here in Canada. We're very precarious place. We saw that the year after Trump won, the last time, that hate crimes went up in Canada by 171%. And we know that Poilievre and Ford have courted votes of those who would roll back rights of the 2S LGBTQ community. They're fanning flames of anti-immigrant sentiment, which puts all of our racialized community members at risk. I will say that as someone who is a person of great faith and has wrestled with all of these issues, entering into the NDP, it's my commitment to make sure that diverse voices are at the table and that reconciliation happens whenever it's possible. And I will continue to work for that in my own in my own life. Protecting all of our human rights is deeply important, while also working for the affordability, the equitable, sustainable province. It's the #1 reason that I'm actually running for the MPP position, is the rights of all of our fellow citizens. In fact, during my ministry at Windermere, we were the first church in Swansea, and to my knowledge, still the only church to hold a yearly event on Trans Day of Remembrance and Trans Day of Visibility. And when the Quebec mosque shooting occurred, we were the ones that hosted an interfaith prayer vigil with members of 7 different faith traditions present. I'm very proud of the way that the NDP caucus has been standing up for the 2S LGBTQ community in our province, ready to fight for legislation and laws that reflect and protect the diversity of everyone in Parkdale High Park.
I'm afraid that's time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alexa. And now for our final predetermined question. This is on food security. And with 1 in 10 Torontonians going to bed hungry, the city has officially declared food insecurity an emergency. If elected, how will you take immediate action to eradicate the food insecurity crisis that is affecting nearly 300,000 Torontonians? And we'll start with Anna, please.
I guess I already said that yes, I recognize the crisis. I would like to say that it is difficult. Everybody is experiencing it, and wealth disparity is a part of it. So Greens are calling for a tax on the hyper wealthy always, and with the school lunch program, this is my foundational approach. I'm action oriented, like I said. You bring food into schools and restore our relationship to the Greenbelt, because if you go to the food terminal, which we're fortunate to have at the very western edge of our riding, scarcely any food is from our Greenbelt. And it is now a boutique thing to do. It's very expensive to go to a farmer's market. But having started a community-supported agriculture program that was funded by a wealthy filmmaker out of New York City, and it was 300 people, and I was driving these boxes around. I just know that there are many agriculture models that can help us out. And I wonder whatever happened to Paul Taylor, and I support the kind of work that Food Share does. And we have so many wonderful groups here in Toronto to support. But something new that I can do is the school lunch program. Starting with mac and cheese is actually once a week. Yeah, and we need to just, I definitely respond to the emergency by going to food banks together and working hard. But it's a shame, it's a crying shame when a government, a premier needs to tell the people to please donate. That is a sign of failure, absolute failure. And the media needs to do better to call this out as something that was unheard of in the past.
It's time.
Thank you, Anna. Alexa?
Yeah, this is another one that is close to my heart. No one should go to bed hungry, especially not our children. And yet we are seeing this increasing levels of hunger and of food insecurity, and the rent is increasing and grocery prices are going up. And too many people have to choose between keeping a roof over their heads and food on their table. 1 in 10 using the food banks. And at my own church, I'm seeing that we serve 400 meals every week to people who are unhoused, precariously housed, as well as housed, working full time, and still can't afford food. During the pandemic, the Neighbors Helping Neighbors network that I started was serving 1,500 meals a week to 5 community housing locations in the community. And all of this is necessary, but it's charity as a Band-Aid. We need a society where people are able to meet their needs on their own. And that's why the NDP has proposed a grocery benefit based on income that will be scaling up with inflation, similar to the Trillium benefit and childcare benefit, to provide immediate relief. We're also going to go after the big grocery companies by stopping the price gouging and cracking down on the unfair practices like price fixing. We have to rein in the big corporations that are making record profits off of all of our backs. And the long-term solution is really to address the affordability in every area, not just a doubling ODSP as the Liberals are proposing, but doubling ODSP and all the social assistance rates, so W and minimum wage, and making housing and rent more affordable by making sure that we have real rent control and that we have those loopholes closed. At the end of the day, this is all about taking care of each other, something that the NDP has always been standing for with workers, with families, and will continue to do so in Parkdale High Park.
Thank you, Alexa. And Nadia?
Yeah, thanks for this question. There is no question. I can agree with both of my colleagues here that under this government, people are being forced to choose between keeping a roof over their heads or putting food on their families' tables. While I was canvassing in Parkdale just last week, I met Jim, who told me that he cooks for 5 people every night because many of his friends who are on ODSP don't have enough money at the end of the month to buy groceries, and so he feeds them. And I agree with you, Alexa, that charity is a Band-Aid. It's great, but it's a Band-Aid. We need a better system. And so we need to be able to create other ways forward. Unfortunately, it's not as simple as subsidizing groceries the way you've suggested, though. We have seen time and again that retailers preempt subsidies by increasing prices. We know that they know that consumers have extra purchasing power, and so they start jacking up those prices as soon as they know that a subsidy is coming. We've seen this happen with auto insurance in Ontario, and we've seen it when the federal government had mandated the reduction of cell phone and internet prices on the big 3 telecoms. So this approach won't solve food insecurity. And that's why we Ontario Liberals are going to be taking a different approach to deal with not just the production by protecting farmland and the green belt and all of that I've already discussed, but also to bring down the cost of living and make sure that people have more money in their pockets to be able to purchase food. So doubling that ODSP is a big game changer for people, number one. Number two, the HST, as I said, the 8% on hydro and home heating, that's a big deal. That adds up to about $1,200 a year for families. That's a big deal. Income tax reductions for middle income families, and of course, protecting our farmland, as I said. No government in Ontario has protected more farmland and ecologically sensitive lands than the last Ontario Liberal government has. And we know that Doug Ford's done the opposite. And as you've pointed out, the RCMP investigation is coming on his notorious Greenbelt land swap. So thank you so much for the question.
Okay, thank you, Nadia, and thank you, candidates, for responding so thoughtfully to all of the prepared questions. We really appreciate it, and just the time that you took to come and to respond to the questions. I'm just looking through the questions that we've received, and it looks like we just have one question. Is that right, Helen and Sue? Just what? Okay, so there's
one more coming in.
There is one more. Okay, so the one question that we have, it's on housing, and it's to all 3 of you, so we'll just you'll each get a minute to respond to it. And the question is, what are candidates willing to do to regulate real estate rent and allow for middle-class workers who don't have an inherited house to afford their own home? And we'll start with Alexa.
Thank you. Yes, the NDP government has a robust housing plan that looks at addressing housing at every level. So 300,000 new homes built or acquired, looking at densification and that missing middle that you're talking about, so that first-time home buyers can afford to purchase a new home. Making sure that our renters are protected with real rent control, with the other wraparound supports, and using good unionized jobs to build those homes, so that again people are earning and being able to live and earn a living where their community is themselves. So from protecting the renters that we already have to
Yes.
building new homes, that including the ones that we're missing. We also have a plan around those who are unhoused and uploading the shelter costs to the province, because the municipalities are struggling with that so much, and partnering with the
Time,
municipalities.
I'm afraid.
Yeah.
Okay. We get Nadia.
Thanks. So, I mean, I'll approach it again. From the housing question, I think I gave a little bit of this answer already, is that we have to look at the entire housing continuum, everything from transitional housing, supportive housing, affordable rentals, and affordable ownership, all through there. Those are ways to be able to make sure that everybody can have access to a home and actually see a home, a future with a home for themselves, whether that's rented or owned. So I'll say again, the phase-in fair rent control is a number one. We have to make sure that everybody has access to that, not notwithstanding whatever year their unit was built in. We also want to make sure that we have that land transfer tax that's waived for new home buyers that are young people or first-time buyers, and seniors that are downsizing. That's another big one there. We also want to do the building of more co-ops and low cost apartment rentals so that everybody can afford to do that. And so these are all part of the Ontario Liberal plan. It's robust. It includes supports for people. We want everybody to be housed. And so
I'm afraid that's time.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Nadia. And Anna?
Thank you for the question. I'm in the same boat. I don't think I'll ever get to stop being a renter, and building home equity is very challenging if it's not your line of work. So Greens have a whole battery of strategies that, if deployed together, could help make housing more deeply affordable. So province-wide vacant homes tax, anti-flipping tax, money laundering crackdown, a beneficial homeowner registry, making sure people can't, if it's their primary residence, they can rent it out, but they can't purchase speculatively to just have short-term rentals. That jacks up the price a lot. There has to be a specific number of affordable homes built. It's 250,000, 22,000 for First Nations brothers and sisters. We are we need co-ops, nonprofits, and community land trusts bolstered. But what was my direct action again? Oh, with the Nestle chocolate factory, I think the corporate leaders now we have to get back to company towns. And so I'm talking to this Nestle CEO to get in on housing with the province. So private partnership with that.
I'm afraid that's time. Sorry.
Thank you. Okay, thank you, Anna. I think we have time just for one more question. So the question that's come in, one of the questions, can each candidate please tell us 3 things that you have done to make a difference for the residents of Parkdale High Park? And we will start with Nadia.
So first of all, I've helped to teach your children and raise them to be the good people that they are at 3 schools in our community. I have gotten to know many people in this community and supported them through the greenhouse initiative that I created at Bishop Morocco that led to the planting of hundreds of tomato plants that united seniors and youth across our riding. And I've supported our member of parliament in a lot of the work he's done. And we know that he has had a huge impact on this community throughout the 10 years of his service. And so those are 3 ways that initially come to mind off the top of my head. But I can also add that I've been a neighbor, I've been a customer at our local shops, and a huge champion for all things Parkdale High Park and the neighborhoods and the people that make it the amazing place that it is. So thank you for that great question.
Thank you, Nadia. Anna?
There's an auspicious number for me, 450. When there was a scramble because of a repair backlog, and my friends at Swansea Muse had to leave from the riding. Was a drastic blow to our community, and we were billeting children. I had 80 plants in my house. I tend to fight every fight because I'm on the ground. I can empathize with what's happening to people. And what else can you do? You show up. And I think I've counted a dozen well, that's an everyday action, is helping neighbors, but feeding back to Parliament and federally and provincially, the legislature has been important. So 450 was also the number of workers at the Nestle chocolate factory, and I don't want them to have to move to Milton and then drive through our riding, in turn causing traffic, which is what most people have the privilege to gripe about, that come to debates, but that big picture is something that I love. I teach deputations to children. I love our school system, and I love being part of a party that said to double ODSP, and now everybody's saying that to give
I'm afraid
agency.
that's time.
Sorry. Thanks, Anna. And finally, Alexa.
I think our community is best when we are called together to work together. And I'm really proud of the ways in which my ministry at Windermere United Church was part of that. The Stone Soup Network brought businesses, over 30 of them, with social agencies to make sure that individuals in need got access to daycare spots, dance school lessons, meals. When Swansea Muse, the ceiling collapsed, Stone Soup Network raised over $100,000 to make sure that each one of those residents had some money on hand to take care of some of the needs that weren't provided for by the city. When the pandemic happened, I founded another program called Neighbors Helping Neighbors, which helped get 1,500 meals every Monday out to people. We had a food bank open when no one else.
15 seconds.
And we have had a coalition of folks that have advocated for a change. More warming centers have come because of the work that I've been proud to do with all of you.
All right, thank you, Alexa. And now we're just going to have just some quick closing remarks from each of the candidates. We'll limit it to a minute each. And if we could start with Nadia, please.
Okay, so thank you to the JRA again for hosting this, and to my fellow candidates for being here, and everybody else who's attending. This is an incredible evening, and thank you for the opportunity. To recap, I'm your Ontario Liberal candidate. I've taught at 3 schools in this community. I've lived and worked in this community, and I really want to make sure that Doug Ford is not our premier after the next 2 weeks. We're all appalled, I think we can say, at the neglect of our systems and the waste of our dollars by this premier and his government. And we've heard tonight from all of our candidates about their vision for the future. And I think we're all appalled that 2.5 million people are without a family doctor here, and that so many people are lined up at food banks and waiting for the basics that they deserve. I'm certain that we agree that rents should not be doubled, and that we agree that housing needs to be in reach. Most of all, I know that my fellow NDP and Green candidates agree that we need to stop Doug Ford. This time, however, the polls are clearly showing that the NDP is falling behind. The Liberals are gaining, with maybe a 10-point lead ahead of us is Doug Ford. And we can close that gap
That's
together.
time.
Thank you.
This election, stop Doug Ford, vote Liberal.
I think that's
Thank you.
time. Thank you. Next is Alexa.
Thank you so much to the Riding Association and all of those for the thoughtful questions, to Anna and to Nadia. It's been a complete pleasure, although this is my very first time ever speaking at an all candidates meeting. I am so honored to carry on the work that Butilla has done in this riding. In fact, this riding has been an NDP riding provincially for almost 2 decades now. And so while we agree on lots of things, Nadia, I think we're going to disagree on who the best candidate and party is to hold this particular riding. The NDP is the official opposition, and it's time that we govern. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Alexa. And Anna?
Yes, and I want to acknowledge all the wonderful work of my running mates. And I want to say that I'm proud to present a way forward with the Greens that represent that reflects ecological wisdom, nonviolence, social justice, sustainability, participatory democracy, and respect for diversity. This is a wonderful place. I lived on and off in the riding since 1982, and I've been in Swansea area. And I love going everywhere in the riding. I do wish the best to the junction here, and we want to look at the broader picture across the riding. I will continue to
15 seconds.
It's been a great debate. Thank you for the opportunity to talk about all these matters.
Thank you, Anna, and thank you to all three of you, to Anna Gorka, to Alexa Gilmore, to Nadia Guerrera for taking the time to come and answer difficult questions from your constituents. Thank you to all of the attendees. One for writing in. We received such thoughtful questions from everybody, and for taking the time today to come here and listen. Um, just as we're about to wrap up, my apologies that we're a little late. We started a little bit late, but here are the key dates for the Ontario provincial election. So election day is February 27th. The polls are open for 12 hours from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. There are advanced polls, which are February 20th to the 22nd. And you can check the electionsontario.ca site for information on if you have any questions on where it is what your polling station is. And just as a reminder, there's also advanced voting that's available now until February 26th at the Parkdale High Park local election office, which is on 2 Jane Street. So we are going to be sending out this package as well as a recording of this to everyone who's attended. I think it'll be on our website, Helen, is that right? Yeah. So we just wanted to say once again to everybody, thank you. And if you want to learn more about or to support the JRA, you can reach us at, you can email us at junctionra@gmail.com or on Facebook, X, Instagram, or Linktree. And if you'd like to donate to us, just scan the barcode, the QR code, and please feel free to do so. We'd appreciate it. Thank you so much to everyone. And I hope everybody stays warm and has a good evening. Thank you.